Hello, I'm Odin, and this is how Odin makes, an appearance on the Making Magic podcast with Sean J.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Making Magic podcast. I'm Sean J, your host, and I'm a professional speaker, magician, and 3D designer. And this is all about inspiring interviews with the movers, the shakers, the visionaries, and the makers. The wizards behind the curtain that make the magic for you. Now, if this is the first time tuning into the show, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to watch this stuff. It really does mean a lot to me. This is a labor of love and a project of passion. So when you choose to click the subscribe button below because you know you want to, that is how you do it. That's how you support the show. Maybe you've already subscribed to the show. Thank you for doing that. Thank you for supporting the show. Maybe you just listening to the sound of my voice on a podcast app like Spotify, or we just got listed in the Apple iTunes podcast app thing, you know, the purple icon on your phone, your watch, or your iPad. If you go there and you search Making Magic with Sean J podcast, you'll find me there. And you can download, listen to new episodes, and hopefully you're enjoying the show and maybe you'll decide to give us a healthy 5-star review, which would be greatly appreciated if you do rate and review the show. So now let's learn about our next guest. He's been making costumes and props for over 35 years, and he started in the pre-internet era, learning from books by Tom Savini and Dick Smith, as well as magazines like Cinefex and Cinemagic. He also honed some of his skills by building model kits and painting miniatures for tabletop games. He runs a DIY YouTube series about making props for cosplay or even just for display. And the series focuses on beginner to intermediate skill levels, inexpensive materials, and often minimal power tools. Some of the popular episodes have included the Infinity Gauntlet, making of Soul Edge from Soulcaliber, a full Gundam cosplay, and even a full Mechagodzilla cosplay. In each video, the prop is taken from the very first step of pattern making all the way to the finished painting and creating all the little details, and often features on-the-fly, on-screen problem solving. It's kind of like a cooking show, but for prop making. You guys have no clue how excited I am that this man said yes to be on my little show, but I think you are going to learn so much and enjoy this entertaining, educational, and insightful interview with the one and only 500,000 subs, Odin Makes from the Odin Makes YouTube series. Check it out. Hey Odin, welcome to Making Magic. Thanks so much for joining me on the show.
Hello, Sean. Hey, this is fun. I'm happy to be here. I suppose I should say, hello, I'm Odin, and I'm now on Sean J's interview with Making Magic.
Yo, just blew the top off. We kicked it off. Ladies and gentlemen, we have the fan favorite father of floor mat fabrication
in
the house.
In the house.
I practiced that one. I did my research.
Awesome.
And
that's wonderful.
You can use that if you want.
Hello. Another one that initially was, I think, supposed to be derogatory. So before I had my own channel, I had another channel called DIY Prop Shop.
Okay.
And I was one of 4 revolving hosts. Well, because it was always changing, the fans are never happy. They always wanted to see one of the other hosts. It didn't matter. None of us could win. So they tried to call me Uncle Foam and make it all derogatory, but I thought it was a great name.
It's actually, Uncle Foam's not that bad. I mean,
right.
It depends on, you know. I think for you, it suits you very well.
Thank you.
Uncle Foam, father of floor mat fabrication, one of those.
There you go. Oh, they're both great.
Awesome. So we got you labeled correctly, and you're going to be going into more detail a little bit later in this interview what exactly I mean, in case our viewers and listeners, because this is also going up on Apple Podcast, Spotify, Google Podcast, all the apps. In case they live under a rock, a foam rock, and don't know who Odin Makes is. You'll be telling them more about what you do. But to kick off the show, I'd like to start with a story. I'd like you to share with us a story about the very first thing, prop, that you ever made. And this can be good, this can be bad, and funny stories are always welcome. So I'll let you take it from here.
Okay. There's so many different ways I could answer this, right? Because I kind of grew up building stuff.
Right.
Like I can remember, sculpted dinosaurs. I was so young, I don't remember doing it, but looking at them on the shelf, it's like, those look like you got them out of the cat box.
Okay.
I would probably say the first major real prop that I actually made, something that I would actually consider having done it as a maker, was I was in high school. This is the mid to late 80s. And I was very inspired by Tom Savini and all of his makeup work, right? Reading the Bizarro book. So I created my own character in English class, this is high school, and it was called the Shoe-Eating Walter Beast. The idea was, our writing prompt was, why does this man not have shoes? So I made this like cartoonish bulldog over the head rubber mask with giant horns. And
wow.
I had this thought that, oh yeah, and I'll make it like makeup so I can glue it on. And so I made the whole lower jaw be separate so I could like talk in it. And
okay. I
didn't do it out of foam. I believe I actually had a head cast that was like really poor, but enough so it fit and the eyes lined up. But it was cast with way too thick of rubber. It was cast, I kept reading about all these high-grade plaster of Paris alternatives, Ultracal, Hydrocal, Dental Stone. Of course, I couldn't find those in the hardware store. So I used like Thompson's wood putty, which is like, oh, this is better than plaster, right?
Wow.
So that's what I cast it out of. Yeah.
Wow.
So
this big hunk of wood putty on your head, basically.
Basically, well, it was a clay sculpture that I put the wood putty on. I actually don't remember how I got a head cast made, but I know I had one.
You were unconscious when that happened, right, or something? I don't know.
That's probably it. Yeah, oxygen deprivation. So I just don't remember it.
Yep.
So it worked. I ended up with a mask I wore for Halloween. I think I showed my English teacher. It's not something I really brag about now, but it definitely was a fantastic start to sculpting, mold making. Learned a lot about what not to do for casting, and how difficult it is to paint latex rubber.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, this might be, folks, this might be a Making Magic first. This is previously unreleased, top secret Odin information that he keeps under his foam rock garden. Clearly radically different than the amazing stuff that you do now, but we all got to start somewhere, of course.
Exactly. And I try to tell everyone that you've got to start somewhere. You got to learn, and you only learn by not getting what you want. If that makes sense, as far as the creative aspect.
Yeah. Well, you put something out there, and by not getting what you want, you look at it and you go, hey, how can I do this better next time?
Correct.
And you touched on it a little bit, and maybe you've explained everything that you learned, but that was going to be, well, that was going to be my third question. My second question was, what was the reason why you made it? Was it specifically for that class project?
Oh, yeah. No, I was just really obsessed with monsters, rubber monsters. Like, one of the big inspirations to make stuff was Godzilla. And another thing I always talk about, there's the Smithsonian magazine that came out in 1983 when Return of the Jedi got released. It has a picture of George Lucas surrounded by all the models in ILM. I looked at that thing so many times as a kid, and looking like with a magnifying glass as much as I could at the little sculptures like the Jabba the Hutt maquettes and things. So I was really obsessed with being in the creature shop for ILM. And
ILM, I'll just pause you right there. Industrial Light Magic, is that what you're referring to?
Yes, yes, Industrial Light and Magic. That was,
dude, that's company. That's a big deal.
Yeah, it is. That's what I really wanted to do. So just doing that was just a project of something I wanted to do, a mask that I wanted to make. I don't remember if it was specifically for Halloween. I know it wasn't a class project at all. It was just something I did.
Okay. And you learned from it, you said, the basics of mold making and casting specifically, correct?
Correct. And in my mind, while terminology may be different, in my mind at least at the time, those are two different things. I've got my clay sculpture, And then I take the plaster of Paris. I use something different, but plaster of Paris is fine for terms.
Okay.
And mix that up and smeared it over the clay. And that's how I cast the mold, right? So I cast my sculpture.
Gotcha.
Then you remove the clay and you have a negative hard form that represents the void that used to be the sculpture. And now I take latex rubber, which came in a can at the time, and painted it in with a paintbrush. And that was how I would, I already lost my term, but that's how I would make my positive head, how I made the latex positive for the mask. But I made it extremely thick, afraid of it pulling apart. So it didn't move the way I wanted it to at all. It was very, very rigid.
Right, right. Well, I mean, you know, doing it old school, painting it on, and you know, getting your hands dirty, and just starting something, right? That's usually the hardest part, is getting started.
Yes, it is. Just getting started. No, it really is. Getting over the anticipation of how am I going to do this? How, and as a high schooler, how am I going to buy the materials to do this? I don't even remember where the money came from.
It just magically manifested. You figured it out.
Right.
Pulled it together. No, and you made it happen. You were very serious about making it happen, and you did. Just this is a side note, not one of my questions, but thinking along your lines, you mentioned rubber suits like Godzilla and stuff. You must be a fan then of, when I was little, my mom actually introduced me to this oldie but goodie, Jason and the Argonauts, the claymation, Henry Harryhausen. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Watched a ton of Harryhausen films. I remember seeing Sinbad and the Eye of the Tiger, right?
Yep.
I think that's what it was, because I always get confused with Rocky III anymore. I saw that in the theaters, you know.
Okay,
so yeah,
okay.
Totally.
Now I can understand where titles can get mishmashed there. When were those put out, in the 80s?
Those are 70s.
70s.
Eye of the Tiger, I think, came out 76, I think, or 78. It was right around Star Wars. So one of the two. So I was 6, 7, 8, depending on where it came out around there.
Okay, well, I think Star Wars did a much better job than Jason the Argonauts, don't you think?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Now that Star Wars was like 30 years ahead of its time, just with everything. It was just
everything
out of control and fantastic. So getting back to the questions, but no, this is a great tangent here. Knowing what you know right now, Odin, what would you wish you would have told your younger self to prevent making the mistakes that you made early on in your career as a maker? One is
you are your own worst critic. And this is the main one that I try to tell a lot of people when they're sending me pictures of their creations.
Okay.
When I was done, especially with that Walter Beast mask, or a number of other things I did at the time, I would seriously nitpick the little things that didn't matter, that the viewer, you know, regardless of if they're in person or not, would never see. And there's things that I threw away and destroyed because, these are too embarrassing to show. And you think about it, no one would have cared. I made something, they would have thought it was awesome. So don't understand that you are your own worst critic, that the human who made it will center on the things they like the least and not look at something on a whole like an audience would. And people are generally, if you're seeing something in person, far more forgiving than they are to the professionals that are on in movies. The other one is definitely don't be afraid to stick with it. I gave up so many times on so many different things early on that was just like, this isn't going to work. I'm going to do something else. And it's like, no, if I'd stuck with it, I could have done a number of different things that I didn't do in my youth. You know, like one of them would be, I actually got a chance to apply as being an intern at ILM.
That is so cool.
I mean, it was cool. The human resources department of the community college I was going to actually had the paperwork, because I've always been in California, right? So it wasn't outside of my ability to get there.
Okay.
But it was an unpaid internship in Marin County. And even at that time, I knew that Marin was one of the most expensive counties to live in the Bay Area of around San Francisco Bay. And so all I could think is, I'm on my own. How am I going to live in Marin, pay for rent, and do a job I don't get paid for? And so I just totally talked myself out of even turning in the paperwork.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Years later, I got to meet up with Tori Belici from Mythbusters. And he had a very similar story, except he actually got his paperwork turned into ILM. And they rejected him.
They
said no.
See, folks, listen to
Right.
that story. Fully absorb that. It was just so, it was a simple matter of making that one crucial decision. Should I turn in the paperwork or should I not? Right?
Or should I not? And I chickened out and had zero chance. Tori did it, didn't get accepted, but still went on to work on the Star Wars prequels anyway. So the first thing he did his first day was run around the model shop holding up his rejection letter. I'm here anyway! I'm here anyway! So, you know, he's a lot of fun to talk to.
I bet he is. Yeah, you know, there's a popular saying, I'm sure you've heard it, success is the best form of revenge.
Yes. Yes,
you know?
Yes, it is.
And that is what he did in spades. I love hearing stories about people getting turned down so many times. They get told the worst put downs, and then they end up like getting to a level 10 times higher than the people that turned them down. And the people that turned them down are so sorry that they did that in the end.
Right.
It's always nice because it's like the good guy always wins kind of story. So, wow, that is so, I did not know that about you, and perhaps the audience, I don't know if even your audience knows about it. I don't know, did you even mention that on your channel before, or maybe you have?
No, I've never mentioned it on my channel. It might have come up in one of my live streams, because I do a weekly live stream on Sundays.
Oh.
And I know I've mentioned it in a few other interviews, but no, that's not really something I talk about a whole lot.
Well, I think it's really important for people to know that. I mean, that just, not that I didn't respect you before, but just sharing that story to me, I mean, that's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and just that you were in that queue to work with a place like that is astonishing, and that explains why your mind works the way it does, and why you make the stuff that you make, and it's great. So. Okay, so Odin, I mean, you're there in your workshop right now. You got tons of things sitting around. I'd like you to share, if you have something nearby, something that you recently made with our audience. You have something?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
It's fun that my shop is nothing but stuff I recently made, right? And I'm making something every week.
Right.
The thing that I made most recently that I'm really happy with was actually a collaboration with not only a friend locally, but a new friend in the UK. What we made was the Rebel Endor helmet from Return of the Jedi again. All of a sudden, this podcast is all about Return of the Jedi. But so this is, it's a collaboration between myself, my friend Felicia, who appears on my show all the time, and she's a professional seamstress, does custom wedding dresses as her day job.
Nice.
And James with a channel called the Rebel Base Build. So James modeled the 3D aspects for making the hard portions of it.
Nice.
And then he also 3D printed the earpieces and the greebles that go inside. I took the 3D file and made a foam template, so the actual ring is all foam. And then with Felicia's help, we went through and patterned out the inside of the helmet, and so then sewed it together. She did some of the sewing, I did some of the sewing, and ended up making, you know, we've actually got a pair of these. I'm going to be sending one back to James in the UK, but I've got a pair of these helmets.
Oh,
so
cool.
This was a lot of fun because it was such a big collaboration between two other makers that I really enjoy talking to and working with.
You know, across the pond collaboration.
Right, across the pond collaboration. So certainly a lot of fun.
Did she custom sew the fabric part of that hat? Is that what you're referring to?
Yes, yes. This was I had some, actually from another Jedi build, I had some leftover, it's actually upholstery fabric, the leftover from a Jedi tunic that I had sewn for a television show called Beyond Geek. So it was the right color. It had the nice rough texture.
Nice.
And so, yeah, this was completely built from scratch by the three of us. There's the foam fabrication, the painting, the sewing, the pattern itself is unique and special to this. And I'm working with Felicia again to redo. She also made the poncho, because if you remember in the movie, Princess Leia not only had the helmet, but she also had this camouflage poncho that she wore. So Felicia totally patterned out and from scratch made the poncho. And the big thing on that is the neck is, the hood is kind of unique. It's basically a World War II English paratrooper poncho, but it's been slightly modified. So she figured out how to get the hood to not only be a hood, but to fall down and have the right ruffles around the neck.
Ah, very
So,
cool, very cool.
yep.
And what is the title of that video if people want to find that on your channel?
I think it's Odin Makes the Endor Rebel Trooper helmet. I think
Okay,
is all it says.
something along those
So
lines. All right,
something along those lines. And yeah, Endor Rebel Trooper helmet. And I
okay.
think it might be with Rebel Base Builds, which is the name of the Across the Pond.
Okay, I will do
Yeah.
my very best to put a link to that in the
Okay.
description of the video and hopefully in the show notes if I remember, so people can go to your channel and check that out. Awesome.
Sweet. Thank you.
Oh, absolutely, my pleasure. What about maker techniques? Now, this is, of course, I've alluded to this multiple times. And
Right.
people who know you know, but if they don't know, now they know. What maker techniques are you best at? What do you specialize in? I know you do a few things. I know your big specialty, but there's others.
Right. There are others. For this question, I would definitely go with my big specialty, which is freeform foam fabrication. I think I really excel at just taking pieces of foam, cutting the shapes I need, seeing how they fit on my foam sculpture,
Yep.
and building off of that. I do on occasion use computers for really technical things,
Okay.
but for the most part, I'm just building off of either a head cast, if it's a helmet that has to fit, or it's just totally on the table. And so my big techniques for that is always, if you're gonna be cutting foam, you always wanna have a really sharp blade. A sharp blade is not only gonna cut easier, it's gonna give you a cut, the edge is gonna be so much nicer. A dull blade, if you look at it, starts to tear at the end. It's like the upper end that you can see as you're cutting, because oftentimes foam is half an inch thick, 10 millimeters, 12 millimeters thick. So visually, the top is cutting fine, but the other end, the tip, is the foam is peeling up behind it, and it'll skip a little bit and then peel up. So you end up with this like torn, almost perforation on the underside, and that's what not having a sharp blade does. And that can be really tricky to glue together and hide, when it comes time to put pieces together.
And
So, yeah.
incredibly dangerous too because people slip all the time with dull blades.
Yes, exactly. A sharp blade is actually safer than a dull blade in almost any hobby you're working with,
Yeah.
except for maybe magic shows if you're juggling or something. But I haven't done that.
Right, right. You're too busy juggling projects for your YouTube channel and,
Right.
and making the things that look great at cosplay conventions, correct?
Correct?
Yeah, yeah. That's what your thing is. But you also, because I've seen your videos and I mean, people who know you know this, but the people that don't, you do some woodworking as well. You have some woodworking tools, don't you?
I do have some woodworking tools, and yes, I do. I've built a number of sets, and I've built a lot of like wood props. I wouldn't say that I'm a woodworker in the sense that I make chairs or I
Right.
make really fine wood, but I'm certainly more than capable of sawing together, like say the original series Star Trek bridge at about 3/4 scale in about a week for a web show that happened 20 years ago in the late 90s, that before YouTube.
Okay. Well,
It
I
was
mean,
all out of plywood.
that's nothing, right? Nothing to do.
Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
nothing. Nah,
no big deal. I
it was a fun
actually
week.
only a week of your life, right? Yeah.
Well, the building anyway, yeah.
No, yeah, I believe you there. I do remember also there was something that you did. I believe it was with quite a bit of wood, and it was a larger project you made. It was like you made. It was like the set to look like the inside of a car or something, inside of the time traveling car.
Yes, I did a video in collaboration with it was actually Google executives. I couldn't say who it was on the video,
Okay,
but correct. I made the inside of the DeLorean from Back to the Future.
that's
So I
right.
made a simple version of the flux capacitor and the stuff that goes in the bulkhead behind Marty, and then like the dashboard and everything else. So all the upholstery of the dashboard was floor mat foam, stapled and bent to look like the shapes cars have. And the whole set was only really the driver's seat. There was no passenger seat. There was no passenger side of the car. That was totally open. And
I
I
remember
remember
this.
putting a plastic piece for the window, not only because I had to draw in, because the DeLorean has a little tiny window that actually rolls down. The whole window doesn't roll down like a real car, like a normal car.
Okay.
So I had to have a piece of plastic there to put that line in. But that also let me have reflections off of it. even though it's going to be a green screen. That way the lights behind everything else reflect off this window to make it look more like a car. But yeah, that was all 2x2, 2x4 construction, some plywood, format foam. I think there was a bar that was put up to be the top of the windshield, right? So that would actually cut off, because there's no roof, but to cut off the top of that. That was, I think, supported by a C stand off to the side. A C stand is just a photography or film thing. It's a metal stand with 3 legs that goes up, and you can put arms off it to support stuff, or you can put lights on it, or it's one of those stands that you have instead of a person to hold something, right?
Right,
So,
right.
yeah.
No, I got it. Yeah, no, I remember seeing that video, and I remember thinking to myself, wow, once you zoom in and get that frame, what's in that frame looks awesome. And then I remember at the end when you backed out, you go, wow, just, look at the illusion that he was able to create with relatively inexpensive materials, right?
Right. Yes, it was. Well, it had to be done on a super budget. The reason we were doing it, there was the Google executives were having some big yearly meeting. It was internal. The public didn't even see this, and so they wanted to show that they're all getting late to be at this meeting, and they wanted to intercut themselves with scenes from movies that showed traveling for how they're all getting to the meeting. So this one guy was going to use the time machine. Somebody else, it's not in my video, but a whole nother set that I had built for the same local director was the back seat of the Corsica from the beginning of La La Land. So when they're all stuck in traffic and the whole song breaks out, it's like the very beginning of the movie, they were intercutting with the executive being in the back seat, like, no, I gotta go. What are you doing? Stop singing. And
that's great.
Then, yeah.
It's like, that's like when you go to a theme park, or sometimes in movie theaters, they have something that you can stand behind, put your face through, or
right.
Yeah, something that you sit in, and when they take a picture, it's like that's the souvenir photo. Make it feel like you're there.
Right. Exactly.
That's awesome. But now we're just finding out this was a custom top secret project for Google. See, you've got your game going on. You're building for high-end clients, building for all different types of things and events, and very creative. And that's why I have you on this show. You're making magic. You're literally creating props that create the illusion that they're real, but the illusion is that for instance, like that gun from Final Fantasy that comes off your arm. When looking at it from afar, you think, man, that must really weigh him down, but it's PVC pipe and foam. It's probably got some weight to it because you've layered it, but it's never going to be as heavy as a real arm-mounted machine gun.
Correct. Yeah, that is one you picked out that actually has some weight to it. That's probably 8-10 pounds, somewhere around there. I could be wrong. I've never weighed it, but yeah, all the PVC pipe added to it. It actually weighs more than the giant sword from Soulcaliber that's behind me. Oh. Because that's almost nothing but foam. There's a piece of wood that goes from the handle to about halfway, and then there's a graphite golf club that goes from halfway out to the tip. That way you can hold the blade tip down on the con floor and take pictures, but it's not going to ruin the tip of the foam sword. But yeah, that weighs less than Barrett's machine gun arm from Final Fantasy.
Huh. Yeah. I was really wondering about that because I actually just recently watched the video. I was just trying to make sure I was caught up to your builds, watched some of your videos. That was one because it caught my eye. And I was thinking, I bet this is heavier than I think because that thick, it was black ABS tubing, right? Was for one of them. And
yeah, on Barrett's arm, yeah.
Yeah, and then the rest was but that ABS was like a I don't know what, a good 1/4 inch at least thick, right?
Yeah, it is. It's just ABS. I call it sewer pipe, but it can be whatever you want to run through it.
Right.
But at that size, at the hardware stores where I can get it, that's just the thickness it is. It probably has to do with pressure ratings. So that's the size it is.
So hey, I mean, and the great thing about learning these kind of skills, these skills and these meta skills, is that if you ever run out of material, right, Odin, or if the hardware shop is closed, you could always just call a plumber down the street and say, hey, you got any stuff left over? I could just put together my next, never mind. I'm just
Right. When I
You know what
was
I'm
younger
saying.
and money was tighter, I'm definitely not going to say that I wasn't ashamed to effectively dumpster dive to get materials to build with. Now, I never used anything as foul as, you know, a used sewer pipe.
I know.
But
I'm just teasing. I'm just teasing.
right, no, it's all good. I get it. But I have made cosplays from discarded materials that totally worked and was a lot of fun to do.
And I think that's even cooler because you make that finished product and people go, wow, that looks great. And then you're laughing. It's like an inside joke because you say, well, if you
Right.
only knew the
You
lengths
only
that I
knew
went
what
to
this.
get that.
Right.
And the,
Thank you to my upstairs neighbors in the apartment complex that threw out the, yeah.
That's right. That's right. That's right. This project sponsored by my neighbors upstairs.
Right. Upstairs.
That was your original sponsored projects.
So another maker secret for anyone who wants to build with foam. All those free couches you see on online or whatever, you know, those are all full of foam. And the cushions are typically ideal. And you can tell if they had pets because you start cutting it with like one of those electric carving knives you use for carving turkeys. That's one of the best big foam knives for that type of couch foam.
Okay.
But pet hair will work its way all the way through the foam. And that's just like, do I want to use this? You know, I really don't care. But yeah, and then leather couches are just, they're amazing when you can find those because now you've got all this really worn in, really beat up leather that you can actually use as the outside pieces of the costume, in addition to all the free foam that came with the rest of the couch. You just have this couch skeleton you got to get rid of.
Right, right. Yeah, I mean, the thing that you just said there, I think that's worth the price of admission, is the fact that you're saving so much money because foam, if you were to buy it, it's incredibly expensive.
Yeah, it is. It really, if you go to the fabric store, right, and want to just buy foam, not only do, at least the stores around me, I think that the pricing is done kind of deceptively because it says by the yard. But if you grab a piece, it's like, no, you got to buy the whole piece. So why don't you price it that way? But the cost of foam is way more than you think it's going to be. Sometimes you can find foam at, I'll say Home Depot because it's the only place I found it, where you can get it about 3 inches thick and it's sold as for outdoor patio furniture. That is cheaper than the fabric store, but it's the same foam. So yeah.
The same stuff. I remember I literally got, I think, it may have been a yard or something, but it was very thick. It was about this, it was maybe 9 inches thick.
Okay, that's, yeah.
I remember literally, I could carry what I got in under one arm and it weighed like not even a pound. I think it cost me like, this place I got, it was like a foam specialty store. I think that was my first mistake.
Could be.
Yeah, and it was like $80-some. And I just remember like, what is going on? What the heck? It's really? Yes, really. So use your foam wisely. Don't be afraid to dismantle couches.
No, don't. Because you can get foam, not quite that thick, but you can get thick foam for way less than that and buy a quality used couch.
That's right. That's right. And then you get the bonus, you get the fabric or the leather for costuming and things like that. Awesome. Wow. So we touched on quite a bit there. I mean, I was going to mention electronics as well. You do some kind of, some basic electronics sometimes you incorporate into your projects, right?
I do, yeah. I would not call myself an electronic expert. I do get called out on my soldering skills, and that's fine because all that is stuff I figured out, most of it from reading books in the pre-internet years. Okay. You would think I would brush up on it since, but I really haven't. It's old habit now. Right. I often joke that my electronics is I rewire flashlights because that's all I really ever need for my projects is for something to glow. So I use a lot of tea lights from the dollar store. I use a lot of $1 flashlights from the dollar store and Walmart. And I end up basically just adding wire in between the element that emits light, whatever that is, and the battery pack, and sometimes put a switch. And that's about the extent of my electronics that I do. But it's effective, so.
Well, you know, again, going back to what you said about you being your worst critic, what I can say from personal experience, it was actually watching one of your videos that gave me an idea for one of the props that I made, but I kind of took it way, way, way beyond that. But the core concept of what you were doing just kind of opened my eyes to go, wait a minute, I don't always have to buy every single component electronics-wise, and hand wire everything together from scratch. You can always buy something that already exists and hack into it and tweak it a little bit, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, and that definitely. And sometimes it's cheaper.
Yes.
If you want to buy a replacement Edison plug, that's a standard American, you got 2 prongs and the ground plug.
Okay.
If you want to buy a replacement Edison plug at the hardware store, they're $5-6, and then you have to buy the wire to put them onto, right? So it's not that expensive, but you can go to the dollar store or a thrift store and buy an old computer cord where it's all molded and done for $1 or less, and you just cut the end off you don't want, and it's the same thing. If not better, because it's actually manufactured and all molded. I've actually replaced plenty of cords on things that have worn out doing that.
That's a great tip, guys. I hope people are watching and listening and making notes here, because Odin's really good at this kind of stuff, and you know, me watching his videos for the past couple of years, and those of you who already know him know that you're very resourceful when it comes to pretty much everything, whether it's just you want to get some light in there, well, you figure out how to hack into something really cheap and just get it going. Just get from point A to point B rather than keep spinning the gears, which a lot of creative people have problems with, just saying, I want this to happen, but I have no idea, so I'm going to spend 6 months just wondering, where, you know, they could have gone to the dollar store and they could have, you know, maybe spend a couple bucks, get a couple of these things and just start cutting and chopping these things up and rearranging them, and that's another thing that I like. What inspired me from your work is just the concept of being okay with damaging things and breaking things and cutting things and just making a mess, because because when you're in the process, when you're sharing the process with people, I love that you also at times share your mistakes. And you're doing, and you go, you know, it took me 2 hours to cut all these holes, and then I realized after trying to put this into that hole that they were like, the hole was 2 millimeters too small. So I had to spend another 2 hours redoing everything.
Yep.
And how often does that happen? Be honest.
All the time. Or worse, the other way, where the hole's too big, and now you got to add a piece to hide the fact that you've got this hole. Yeah. No, all the time.
Good.
And
good.
With what you're saying, as far as you get focused on an idea and how you want to do it, you spend 6 months trying to figure it out instead of just going and buying a little thing. I still do that to myself too, where I have this idea of this is how I'm going to do it, and I'll go down the path of this is how I want to do it, and spend so much mental energy and sometimes real energy doing that, when you suddenly realize, oh, there's a well-paved trail right over there. I can just go over there and be done in 2 minutes. Yeah.
I could just buy that thing which contains the elements that I need and just take that and just, real quick. Got it. That's great advice, great just life lessons and concepts here. What about any maker techniques that you are excited about learning this year? Maybe you've been spending some time during the pandemic tinkering with new ways of doing things, if any.
Portions of the pandemic, I was tinkering with resin 3D printing, and that's been a lot of fun, and I want to do more of that. And I didn't have a lot of success with filament style 3D printers, as well as I'm not really excited with the end product. I think it takes a little too much effort to clean them up. If it's something really fine and delicate, but you know, anyway. The thing I'm really excited about getting to work with, because I just have met a friend that's got one, is laser cutting. So actually using like a Glowforge style laser cutter.
Yes.
Years ago, I got to play with doing some laser cutting on foam, and it works a treat. It works so well. So I'm excited about the repeatability and the exactness of having that happen. And then if you fluctuate the strength of the laser, you can etch the surface of the foam but not cut through it.
Because I've seen I believe Glowforge does this. I believe Snapmaker has that as a feature. I'm not too familiar with the Snapmaker. I've seen tons of ads about it, but I do know there's a wood engraving laser, and so I guess if you have a foam is so soft, you probably just weaken that beam, because you just need just a little bit, right, just to get that going.
Right, just a little bit. I've got the Shark version 2. Now I can't remember what it is, but it's a 3D printer where you can swap out the head for a laser engraver. And I am curious, I haven't tried it yet, how how well that will actually just cut through foam because it's so soft, as opposed to just burning wood. Because it seems like thin foam, it should do it.
Yeah, it's nice to have that precision for sure, because as you know, hand making stuff, I believe there's more pride to be taken in the end product, because you know the toils and horrors that you went through to get there.
Right.
but then, right, when you show up at a cosplay convention and they just go, wow, that looks great, you think to yourself, well, I could have done that, shaved off 3 hours with my laser cutter and got the same looking thing, right?
It feels that way, yes. Hand making something, you spend a lot of time trying to make it look like it wasn't handmade. Yeah.
Right. That is the trick to hand making, basically, which is kind of, anyway, I don't know if it defeats the purpose. I think people hand make stuff because, I mean, you seem to be like the kind of guy that you simply enjoy the process, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I've always, Odin Makes as a channel is literally what I used to do to entertain myself when I wasn't working. So I just enjoy the process. And the big plus of having a channel is now I have this weekly deadline where I got to finish something so I can make a video so I can put it out. When I was making stuff just to entertain myself, once I got past the problem, once I got past the puzzle of figuring out what was new with this, I lost interest in it because I know I can do the rest. So then the project went in a box, went in the garage, you know. My wife hated that. Could you finish something?
You have like this weird, like randomly unfinished projects just like all sitting in a box, and it just looks like it could be a bunch of anything.
Yep. Yeah, all sorts of, I've gotten rid of a lot of them because I'll never go back to them at this point. But
Right, it's kind of like once you pass that 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, it's like, am I ever gonna really? Nah. I got bigger and better things to do for my channel. My subscribers are waiting for good content. And that's what you give them. So what about the favorite, well, would you say the hat that you were talking about, and you said you've designed a number of things recently. What would be your favorite thing that you've designed recently? And I know you don't want to upset the people over in the UK, but it's...
Right.
Would you say that's maybe one of your favorites, or do you have any other favorites?
Oh, there's all sorts of favorites. The favorite thing I'm working on right now that isn't finished.
Let's do it,
is my Mechagodzilla cosplay. I'm doing a full 1974 Mechagodzilla cosplay. So I'm going back to my roots of a Godzilla fan. So I'm making this. It's actually, the head's right behind me.
Okay, let's see it. Whoa, yo! I didn't see that because it was a bit dark back there, but now
it is a bit dark back there. Yeah.
Look at that.
So. And I've got a helmet inside that has a string attached to my chin, so I can kind of puppet the mouth a little bit. The eyes are actually 12-volt truck lights; they're LEDs. So I hook those into a 12-volt drill battery, and the eyes light up. Yeah, and then that's where my face actually is. So,
okay.
Which that's actually the way the suit was. So
be careful not to scare the kids.
Right. I need to make legs and tail. So I've got it built down to the point of legs. I've got it built down to like the pelvis. The mecha diapers are done, but I need the legs to come out in the tail, and then it's kind of done.
Wow.
There's details I want to do to it. Like he's got a chest laser, and I would like to make an air circulation system, because here's something else if you're not aware. Foam is an insulator.
Oh, yeah.
So once you start covering yourself in foam, it gets hot in a hurry.
I was going to mention that. I was going to say foam, that alone will raise your internal body temperature like by 50 degrees. Wow, fantastic. So for those of you just listening to the podcast, Odin showed us, just go back, just Google, what was it, Mechagodzilla?
Mechagodzilla, yes.
Mechagodzilla, which is basically a kind of all-metal mechanical futuristic version of Godzilla.
And he's kind of like a Terminator for Godzilla, because the movie starts out, he looks just like Godzilla, but then his rubber Godzilla suit falls off, and now he's all space titanium, and he's melted down.
Okay. So those Japanese scientists, they were getting a little creative. They're like, this Godzilla skin cannot heal. We need to fix that. Too many bullets. Too many bullets. Too much napalm. It's frying his skin off.
Too many remote control tanks. Yeah.
Yeah. Remote control tanks, too many little miniature boats and toy homes and
Yep.
fake smoke explosions. And yeah, what was I going to say? Oh yeah, you need to, you should figure out a way to have smoke come out of the nose, or you could hit up the hacksmith or Jay Laser and have him shoot a flamethrower out of there or something.
That'd be great.
Right?
No, the nose would be cool. They actually make mini smoke machines. It's basically the inhaler for a vape pen and a small fan. And you do that, and so you can get small little smoke effects.
Now
So that's definitely a possibility. But unfortunately, at least in California, almost none of the cons allow smoke effects from costumes because vape smoke and smoke effects can set off the fire alarm. And I know from experience that when that happens, you have to evacuate the building, stand outside, and then you can come back in. So it's just not worth it.
just leave that. Hey, how about dry ice, maybe?
Dry ice, maybe. I don't know. It's weird. The rules for me is they just label everything as a smoke effect. Now, if you want to do it for yourself, you want to do it outside for photos, you want to do it for Halloween parades or something. Go for it, because it's going to look really, really cool. And I've seen some really good like Ghost Rider cosplays that they've got the smoke coming off from the collar, and then they shoot LEDs through it, and it really looks like flame.
Oh, nice.
It's not going to fly around here.
Right. See, the first thing I was thinking of, the main reason that I thought you were going to say is that just maybe there's a 0.1% chance that it could cause cancer, because everything in California has a label because it can cause cancer.
Yeah, Proposition 65 is not fun to live under. I'm sorry, it escapes out to the rest of the nation. I get it.
Right. I mean, the T-shirt you're wearing can cause cancer.
Yes, it can.
The foam causes. I mean, foam can cause cancer probably if you make a smoothie out of it and drink it. But California is very, very picky. I was actually I went online. I'm like a health food fanatic, and I buy sometimes special organic nuts from an online company, and I remember getting it, and it was like almonds or pecans, and then it said on the bag, it said this product contains chemicals known to the state of California to cause cancer. And I called them up. I said, whoa, where do you get this stuff? What's going? I never realized I was I was hurting myself that much, and they just said no, California. And I was thinking, well, basically anything that grows in the ground probably contains trace minerals that can cause cancer. So they just got to put
effectively. Well, both almonds and peaches, which are somehow related, around the pit. So the almond nut itself is fine, but I think the fruit outside of the shell of the almond, and then just inside the pit of a peach, both contain arsenic. And so that falls under the proposition. In fact, I had a friend that would collect bugs. And so he had his little bug kill jar, which was arsenic. And one of the things he told me was, it's like Princess Bride, sniff, but do not inhale. He let me know that genetically, there seems to be two groups of people, those who can smell it and those who can't. So if it smelled like nothing, then I was that group. Or if it smelled like almonds, then I can smell arsenic and I could smell almonds. So that was interesting for me.
Well, that's a good superpower to have, to make sure you don't accidentally...
Oh, you smell almonds?
Hey, it's that person following me around with arsenic. Yeah, that's the guy.
That's the guy. It's Old Lace over there. Yeah.
That's right. No, that's good. And the pits of peaches, if you actually crack into it, it does look exactly like an almond, which is crazy.
Okay, I've never cracked one. That makes sense. Okay.
Yes, the peaches and nectarines are known as stone fruit, and because the pit is hard as a rock. But if you actually crack it open, because I was curious, actually, I don't know, it dried out and it started to separate a little bit, and I saw there was something else inside. And I cracked it open, and it looked like a little shriveled almond. It looks exactly like a dried shriveled almond out of trail mix.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yep.
No, never done that.
See, I have that kind of time on my hands. You see, I'm doing great
And you have
things
the
with my
inquisitive
life.
mind. Yeah.
and I discovered what not to eat and how to avoid arsenic. See, these are the kind of life lessons that we're learning
Yes.
on the Making
The
Magic.
world's full of arsenic. And guess what? It grows out of the ground. It grows on trees.
Stay away. Don't eat anything that comes out of the ground.
Right.
What about your favorite prop that you have designed in the past? I don't think we touched on that.
Not a whole lot. Now,
because we talked about the mask thing, but your favorite thing, like when you're getting going and then you said, oh, I'm getting really good at this stuff, and oh, this was the first thing that you can remember you got recognized for, maybe.
Okay, sure. So that would certainly be another set of Halloween costumes that I did actually before I even heard of the term cosplay. So this is 95, 96, and a friend and myself and a few others did a cosplay of there's a heavy metal rock group called Gwar, and they were doing pretty okay in the 90s as far as low-key rock groups can do. So we made costumes to look like that. Now Gwar has a stage presence that's kind of the 90s version of, say, Kiss. So if you remember Kiss, they've got it's all black leather and makeup and the big boots. So Gwar is sort of like that, but mixing the Muppets. And my character had like a giant bear trap for a head with dreadlocks and the shoulders, giant spiky stone shoulder pads. And then the lead singer's got like pauldrons that kind of look like Nazi helmets with spikes on them, and he's got a big gnarly monster face with horns that come off of it, and this giant sword. And during their performances, they're supposed to be scum dogs of the universe, and they're here to kill all humans, like all aliens do, right? So they'll bring out these really bad puppet humans and behead them on stage, and then it literally sprays blood all over the crowd.
Dang.
It's salt water and food coloring, but I know that because you can taste it, and also it has to be safe for the people in the crowd.
Ooh,
right? So it's just a huge part of the shows. All this weird, they're actually really fun shows. The music, not for everyone, definitely. But the shows are, if you like foam and rubber monsters, are fantastic. So
you were watching the show from, you're appreciating the construction of the costume part. Yeah.
Oh, I would brave the mosh pit to get up to the front on some of the shows where the stage is really low. So there's points when I've reached up and grabbed the foot of the lead singer, and I could flip back the toe and say, oh, they cast this just like I did my mask in high school. But then they backfilled it with foam to give it some, because you can mix two chemicals and make foam, right? So they did that in order to give it its shape. But, yeah.
so that guy must have been. Well, when was this? Was this in?
This is 90s, 95, 96, 97.
I think that was back. That was back when it was okay to do stuff like that while people were performing on stage.
Yes. Yeah, this is pre White Snake Fire. Yeah. Gwar didn't do a whole lot of pyrotechnics. There was Gwar woman would come out and do the fire dancing with fire batons or something on a chain that she'd swing around, depending on where the venue was. That was something that was what she did anyway. But so once she was in costume, it just became part of her character. But depending on the venue, they may or may not have done that. So they didn't rely on pyrotechnics. But they sprayed gallons of fluid everywhere.
That sounds like a show that was great. For children ages 3 to 7. Bring them along, take them out of daycare. Forget the Muppets on TV, forget Sesame Street.
Right. We're going to go see Gwar, who's going to give you the really wrong Birds and the Bees story.
We're going to give you the twisted, the twisted version of the Muppets. You're definitely going to learn a lot more than your ABCs at this show, folks.
Yes.
Wow, interesting. Wow.
And they're actually still around. The band is still going. And as a weird, fun, all things come back. A couple of years ago, I got contacted by one of the guys that worked for. There's the group of artists that support Gwar, right, and builds all this stuff, and they call that their slave pit. So it's kind of like Industrial Light Magic, but it's Slave Pit Industries. And so I get contacted by a guy from Slave Pit, and we're just talking about stuff. And he tells me that he has brought my videos up more than once during design discussions on how to make things for the actual Gwar show.
Wow.
And I let him know that, I kind of started out imitating Guar and building stuff, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
was amazing.
That's, I'm sure that was quite the compliment for you, and
Oh yeah.
and just bringing things full circle to hear that must have been inspiring, definitely. Exciting, and you must have been honored to have them compliment you.
Oh, for sure.
By
yeah,
referencing
definitely.
your work. Huh. Okay. Wow. Yeah. I'm just imagining that visual. That's so funny because like 90s interviews, I watch all different types of interviews just to get a style of how people interview and just to kind of educate myself. And I was watching recently an interview from the 90s with Beck. And,
okay.
And this is funny. If the viewers or the listeners know about old rock and roll, if this particular interview, it was labeled on YouTube. It's literally called, I think, World's Most Awkward Interview or World's Worst Interview. And when you watch it, you'll see why, because Beck was probably on more than a few things prior to the interview. And what made it so 90s and friendly for 90s is because nobody cared. It was like he came in there, he could barely put together a sentence. At one point, the guy asked him if he's, what he's doing for his fans, and he must be really proud that his fans have been supporting his work or something. The guy didn't even respond. He just unties his shoe, Beck, takes off his shoe, and he just silently, throws it at the set behind him without saying anything. And then he's like back to the interview. Like nothing ever happened. It's like, what? Like, that was okay in the 90s. Touching somebody's foam foot while they're in the rock band was okay in the 90s, but not today. Yes. That's funny. That is funny. What about, let's switch gears a little bit and let's go to what you would consider your biggest DIY fail of all time, if you can think of one.
Think of one.
Yeah. Well, because we all fail, we all screw stuff up, we all have things, they look great, and then we put on the suit or whatever you create, it falls apart, or jumping up in the air, splitting your pants, just stupid stuff. So just think about one of those interesting stories.
So pre-internet, well, not pre-internet, but pre-YouTube days, because of the Guar costumes and the things I did, I still had people in my area around me wanting me to help them do stuff. Mm-hmm. And so the biggest fail I think I had was overselling my abilities to someone who's doing a World War II documentary, and they wanted to do battle reenactments. Okay. And I knew how shows like Band of Brothers and other things would do some of these fake explosions that were safe for the actors. It's like, oh, that's compressed air. It's a compressed air cannon. You have a quick release valve, and it blows vermiculite, which is ground up cork, so it's super safe, and like topsoil and stuff. So and maybe baby powder. So it makes this big poof of stuff in the air. Okay. But it's all very safe for the actors because there's no pyrotechnics. Nothing's heavy, right? The dangerous thing is going to happen is you're going to inhale dirt. So it's considered a safe explosion. Right. So I start putting together the rig to do this, and I'm a procrastinator, right? We're coming up to flying to Crete, the Greece island of Crete, to go and do this stuff on location. Wow. I'm thinking, oh yeah, those will be dirt, and not fully testing it and getting some pretty weak. It's more like large arm fire hits. These like, it's not what the director wants at all. But then we get out there and realize there's dirt is precious in Crete. It's at least in the areas we were, it seemed like it was just a lot of rock, and then there's some more rock, and then on occasion you had some finer rock. Yeah, and the bushes were all very dense and thorny. I remember actually taking a replica firearm and just setting it on the bush, and it was like putting it on the table.
Yeah, because the thorns literally are like this, and they make like a shelf.
Right. Yeah. So probably with that particular project, overselling my abilities and then spending the money to even have this stuff shipped out to Crete to try and put it together. And then I couldn't get the pressure. I couldn't get it just totally failed. It was just I'm so sorry, guys. But the documentary ended up being really good. It's called The 11th Day. It's all about Germany's invasion of the island Crete, which is the only paratrooper invasion that's ever happened in battle. And because the director is that's his heritage, is he's from Crete, right?
Okay.
And so the people are very proud of it because historically speaking, the resistance of the people against Germany used so much of Germany's resources that is probably a major thing that helped contribute to winning the war. Was too much effort was spent in trying to hold this island that was important to get the planes to hop down into North Africa. So it's not like it was this, oh, we just want that. They needed it. But the Crete people never gave up. So they're also the only ones that successfully kidnapped a German general. So it was a really fun project to be on. But yeah, I failed on that one thing.
So guys, when you watch the 11th hour, you will notice the
11th day. Yeah.
I'm sorry, the 11th hour is probably a horror movie title or something.
Probably.
The 11th day, if you watch the 11th day, you will probably notice some of the explosions are a little weaker than they're supposed to be. Yeah, that's Odin's fault. Just saying.
we got a hold of the only guy in the island that had a license to do fireworks and pyrotechnics, and so he brought out
one guy.
Yeah, there was literally one guy. Well, it's no guns country. There's zero tolerance, right? So he was the only one that had the ability to get black powder to do this type of stuff. And so what we did is he made a fireworks are basically mortars, right? So it looks like a coconut you fire up into the air, and then when it goes off, it does all the sparkly stuff. So we made one that was pretty much like that, but what we did is we buried it in the beach. And this thing was just ginormous. So the one that goes off was, 60 feet in diameter. It was just covered everybody. We had 7 cameras on it because we had one, right? So every camera we brought, we had on this one beach reenactment. But so that one wasn't me. That was somebody who knew what he was doing, sort of, and over-delivered.
He's like, yeah, I got a little something for you.
Yeah, exactly.
he comes. You must be Odin. Nice to meet you.
Yes, exactly.
And you're like, there's a reason why he's missing an eyebrow and a few fingers. And then
he was. You're right. No, that's funny. No, he was whole.
Okay, he was in one piece. He had all his eyebrows.
Yeah, he had all his eyebrows. Just fantastic, nice older guy.
Wow.
He barely spoke English. I couldn't speak Greek at all, so it was a lot of fun talking to him.
Just go boom, right? That's all he said. I'm going to make it go boom.
Go boom. No, he could explain himself, but being self-critical, he didn't think he spoke English very well.
Right.
And it's like, no, dude, you're fine.
That is one heck of a story. I saw something on YouTube kind of related to this. There's a weird sport out there, very, very specific, very small group of people like to do this. It's fascinating to watch on video and probably even more in person. I never thought this would be this cool. Have you ever heard of an anvil launching competition?
A little bit. Who just did that? Beyond the Press just did that, I think, right? Or somebody did, where they were.
I'm not sure.
You do basically you take a mortar, you put an anvil on it, and you set it off to launch an anvil up in the air.
Something like that, yes.
Yeah. I've seen a little bit on it. I didn't realize it was a full-blown sport, but
it's a sport, and I was trying to find the guy quickly, but I can't find him. Anyways, if you look it up on YouTube, there is this guy. There's this guy that specializes in that, and he knows how to make the right mix of powder, and there's a video of him outside. It literally looks like something you'd see in a cartoon. It looks like the anvil's there. He lights a match, and you hear the tsh, and it looks like a foam anvil getting yanked up in the air by a string, somebody reeling it in. But it's like I don't know how much the thing weighs. It's a solid metal anvil, just boom, straight up, and then it comes down and it just sticks in the ground and it like parts the Red Sea. It's pretty impressive, actually. Anvil launching.
Yeah, okay, I'll have to look that up. That sounds like a great way to waste my evening.
That's right. Maybe you can make a foam one and like switch one in during the competition, and then.
I've actually joked on the channel about making like an Acme foam anvil, just as a thing.
Maybe you can do a collab with this guy. I'll have to find him after this interview is over and send it to you. maybe you could do a collab. You know, you two could be like a split screen, and he could launch his anvil, and you can do something with your foam one. I don't know. I'm just
he launches it and it lands on my head with the foam one, right?
That would be hey, that's YouTube collaboration in the 21st century, folks.
Yes,
that
it is.
Is how you do it. So hey, is there anything that you ever created perhaps by accident when you were like tinkering in the workshop, and then all of a sudden it turned out to be this amazing thing, and then you said, oh, you know what, I'm going to go with that. That's going to be my next build. Ever happen to you?
Is all the time a safe answer? No, maybe not quite all the time. One of the other secrets is that I found a way of building that works really well for me. And so I kind of stay within that realm to have the control to get a video out every week. But there's definitely been a number of occasions where happy accidents happen, and you get something that really works really well. Because I know that happened. I can't think of a specific instance, but I was art director for another YouTube channel called Smosh. And so
I'm familiar with Smosh. That's a pretty big channel.
It was. It was a lot of fun to work for. They had a crew of 25 people when they were shooting, at least up here in Sacramento.
It's like Dude Perfect.
Yeah. So that happened all the time. But the biggest, I had built, so this is pre-YouTube, I had built a display for a comic shop. Okay. And it was something I wanted to do. I worked at the comic shop. I was making these red dragons because it was Dungeons and Dragons was doing a advertising thing of, I think it was May. May is Dragon Month. And so I built these like kind of large puppet dragons, but they weren't puppets, they were static, okay. as a thing for, because they had a contest. Well, the accidental whatever that came out of that is I got these things built, I got them set up, they've been in there not very long, and I'm just sort of being me and talking to people, and there's this one person, she was there, and she came by and started talking to me about the dragons, and then talked about a few other things, and I noticed that a few hours had gone by, and she was still there, and so we're talking about other things, and I'm just, okay, I'm being me, being friendly, asking stuff and answering stuff. Long story short, I've been married 17 years now. So my DIY accidentally got me a wife.
Oh, wait a minute. What? Oh, that's where you're going. I had no idea that was going to be the punchline there. Look at that. Wow.
The punchline there is she ended up hanging out with me until the store closed. And then we went out and had dinner. So yeah.
Wow.
So, artistic introverts with social anxiety can still get married. It can happen.
Wow. That's first of all, congratulations on 17 years.
Yes, thank you very much.
Secondly, dude, that's wild, man. That's, you know, my I'm not afraid to say this, but my mother always told me, you know, her advice, because you know, I personally have just been, for the past 18 years, I've been in magic ever since I was 12. I'm 30 now. I've just been career-oriented and not really thinking about that kind of stuff. Right. And you know, recently, to be honest, I was thinking about that kind of stuff, and I was discussing with her, and she said, you know, Sean, just don't force it, because this kind of thing will always happen when you least expect it. You're not going to know the time, the date, the place. You'll just be in the middle of, you'll be in a groove doing something, and all of a sudden it'll just kind of click, and you'll just know. And so with you, it's just you were probably so focused on this Smosh project, and all of a sudden it just kind of organically worked out, right?
Just worked out exactly, and that's exactly right. And because of that, I've got a partner who's got similar interests that you know. We met in a similar place, and so we click and groove obviously really well. So
that's great, because she understands you, because she was already involved in that kind of stuff prior to meeting you anyway.
Yeah, and she's actually doing the editing for the show now. When I went to weekly, she started editing the videos to free up a couple of days for me to be able to get going on the next week's build.
Great teamwork there.
Yeah, totally.
Right on, man.
Very much grateful for her.
Yes, you complement each other. You make up for each other's strengths and weaknesses. So that is actually probably one of the best answers to this question that I was not expecting. So thank you, Odin, for that.
You're totally welcome.
Now we're going to get to, I don't know, this is kind of like a 3-question lightning round type of style where I go a little bit faster. All these questions are kind of similar. Sometimes my guests end up answering all 3 of them once I ask them the first one. And you'll see and hear how this, my audience will understand how this works. So this, one of these last questions is, what inspired you to be a maker?
Oh, okay. What is inspired me to be a maker? Immediately I'm thinking Monty Python. What is the air feet of a coconut-laden swallow? What is, honestly, being a maker was just part of growing up. So my answer is going to be my dad. He was an engineer and a designer, doing all sorts of things for the entire time I can remember him. So going outside and watching my dad like go out and buy a truckload of aluminum pipe, and then over the course of a weekend, grind it up, weld it together to make a racing car frame for modified midget racing, right? And then he would rebuild
midget racing.
Yeah, modified. So it's a specific type of car. You get like this midget car racing, what they called modified. I don't know.
Oh, I thought it was like a competition where midgets are racing in cars. And
right. Okay. No, it's
little people.
It's full size people in these like midget. I
have to say little people. I have to say little people.
Right.
There we
it's
go.
Okay to call them midget cars.
Okay, midget cars.
But basically, if you were to picture the car from Monopoly, but give it big dirt tires and a roll cage and maybe a goofy spoiler. That's kind of what they look like.
Okay.
Spoiler on the top. It's this weird design, but Dad really got into it, and so that was just one of the things. And he worked for well, as an engineer, he worked for all sorts of different companies. He did wheelchair lifts for public transit. He worked for a company called Barango that did the robotic Christmas displays that were really prevalent in the 80s for shopping malls. He worked for a company in Silicon Valley that did floppy disk duplication. And so he redesigned the hopper for how you feed the floppy disk into the machine to be able to record. Just all these things. And so I would say my inspiration definitely came from him, because he was the one that's like, oh, you want one of those? Let's go make one. And so it was always this nonchalant, yeah, we can do that. You want a sailboat? Oh, let's go weld one together out of aluminum. So we made this like 8-inch, sailboat out of probably 1/8 inch or 3/16 inch aluminum that he just welded together. And then we made a sail out of, I think it was saran wrap, and you put it in the pool, and sure enough, it just scooted across the pool. That was what we did that Saturday.
What a lucky guy you were to grow. I mean, you just had constant inspiration growing up. That was your immersive environment that you grew up in.
Absolutely. And Mom was very, very creative as well, in all the things she did too. It was sewing and unfortunately it seems very stereotypical to say it. That's kind of trying to be offensive, but that was, what she, so.
Well, no, if that's what it was, that's what it was. That was her thing.
Yeah. So definitely in a lot more, that realm of creativity, but same thing. It was like, oh, we need that, and so she would sew half the costumes for the school's Wizard of Oz play, or she would create some other crazy thing. The two of them used to make 7-tier wedding cakes. I think the tallest one's like 56 inches from the table to the bride and groom at the top. These just massive tiers of wedding cake. And then there was this super creative way. How do you transport that, right? So
yeah. That's a whole other separate build to transport that.
It is.
The transport build. Wow, that's great, man. There were a couple other guests that I interviewed that had similar environments where they just said, that's how I grew up, that my mom and dad. I wish I mean, my mom, well, I would say both my parents are pretty creative. My mom is really creative. She's great with idea generation, but I wouldn't consider her a maker per se. She's really good at, if you give her a problem, she can just, in her mind, mentally come up with a really offbeat, bizarre solution. That's actually like, wow, I never thought of that. And then it's usually my job. We just talk about things, and then I come back here to my mad science lab and I go, wait a minute, maybe we can, and then I do it. And she's like, yeah, I'm the whatever, and you're the doer. I'm the thinker, you're the doer,
Right. I'm the planner,
Yeah.
And that's a majorly, that's a fantastic maker skill, this off the wall. How am I going to make this work? Oh, I can carve a potato and do that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's so cool. That's so cool. So you did effectively answer the next question, which was going to be who inspired you to be a maker. It was clearly your parents, and your parents
Yes.
were. It was just a way of life, and it seems that they were very pragmatic and into just practical, do it yourself, blue collar, get it done. If it's broken, we are going to fix it. Let's just take care of it, right?
Yeah, yeah. My dad was the guy that a lot of people would call exactly for that. We got this weird thing. How do we fix it? He'd come over and, oh, okay, oh, we'll do it like this.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Now, who do you look up to in the maker space?
Definitely, you want to imitate those who have the success that you like or want, right? Um, Adam Savage. I've loved Mythbusters from the very
Yeah,
beginning,
man.
and
Agreed.
yeah, I still watch Adam Savage's live streams, and yeah, definitely, because he's all over the place, and there's elements of the machine work he does that reminds me of my dad. That as like the rebellious kid, oh, I don't want to learn that. That's what my dad does. Oh, I hate that I did that. I would love to have some of those skills.
I agree.
Yeah,
Anyone else besides Adam?
well, it was a lot of fun. I actually got to meet and talk with Tori Belici, who's another MythBuster.
Oh, right.
And he and all of us are in the same basic age group. But it was just,
Okay.
me talking about the ILM, and there's so many similar stories of growing up and building weird things that I was hearing Tori talked about. It's like, oh yeah, I remember doing that. We were in a panel together at a Comic-Con once.
Oh, cool.
So that was fantastic.
Right. That must have been so nostalgic, and it was just like a bunch of good old buddies getting together, reminiscing.
And we had never met before, but totally. And oddly enough, Tori's dad and I hit it off really well.
It's like you never met, but you maybe met in a previous life, and you're just now
Right.
meeting again, kind of thing.
Definitely.
I know the feeling. I know the feeling. It's like, yeah, it's weird when that happens. You'll bump into somebody at a convention or something, and you just click, and it's like you find that you're on the same frequency, and you have been the whole time. And then it's like, how do we miss each other? Why did it take this long for us to meet? So.
Right. Oh yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And that's just me, imitating the conversation, going, yeah, being weird.
Okay.
Sorry. And otherwise, peers, somebody more, not that Adam Savage is totally out of my level, but I mean, here's somebody who's got a big history in television, right?
Sure.
There's another maker that I really, really like, and I've also gotten to meet and talk to, is Evil Ted Smith. And he has his own YouTube channel, and he does a lot of foam fabrication. He's actually in Hollywood and has done the Rubber Monsters, and has done a lot of that work that I thought I really wanted to do when I was younger. Turns out I really don't want to live in LA. That's been
I
one of my
totally
big
agree with
points.
you 100,000 million %. That's just
Thank
my opinion. I've been there on a few occasions. I like the productions. I like doing television shows, but the area, I probably wouldn't want to live there full time.
I don't want to live there. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it turns out he's worked on a number of movies that I've looked up to and enjoyed, or really weird, obscure things that I knew of. And so, yeah, Evil Ted Smith is definitely someone else that, especially early on when on the other channel I talked about being on DIY Prop Shop. It's like, I need to go build something. Well, how did Ted do it? Yeah.
WWTD, what would Ted do?
Yeah, what would Ted do? Exactly.
Cool. Well, no, these are great people that you mentioned. I have made sure that as we were talking, the names and of their channels were popping up, just so viewers could see, and listeners, the links to that and more info will most likely be in the show notes and the description of this video. So, wow, it's great. You're getting inspired from the best in the biz. That's what I always try to do with my business. I always say it's a constant goal of mine. It's just a state of mind, basically, where I go, I don't know everything. There's always something I can learn. How can I find and connect with people that are way smarter than me that I can just soak up like a sponge? I do that as much as possible, because one of my other friends says, if you're ripe, you rot. If you're green, you grow.
Yeah. Oh, that's actually really good. Totally.
And it's true. That's Rocco, actually. Mentioned that's a buddy of mine, another magician. But anyway, what resources would you recommend? And I know you've got a lot of them, and this is actually one of my favorite questions to ask you, because you are literally the resourcerer when it comes to your channel, you know, taking this random thing and that random thing, putting them together, and they're lots of times very low cost, low tech, but then you make this beautiful thing. What resources would you recommend to anyone out there that's interested in learning more about, let's just say, working with foam, or MacGyvering things from already existing electronics, or props from movies and things along those lines?
All I could catch, YouTube. Man, I wish I had YouTube when I was younger. I would go to the library and try and read stuff, and it was
Well, how did you?
Not rewarding.
Right.
What's that? I mean, it was, but it was really hard to find the information I wanted.
Right. Well, it's a bit different. You know, in the library back in the old days, you actually had to walk using things called feet and muscles in your legs, and do brain power and pulling physical things called books with pages, and what are the
what is this stuff? And the other big thing that you just don't think about is all this stuff is physical. And so not only does someone have to write it, but then they had to put it together into something that could be printed and shipped out that people had to buy. And so the information that are put into these books, especially at the time, and for making of movies, because making of didn't sell that well, it wasn't a huge market. It was a making of book from the time was typically interviews with the stars, because that would sell. And so finding the resources of, well, yeah, but how do you do an undercut mold? That wasn't there, you know. So there was a book called Cinefix magazine that really, it was a trade magazine that really taught me a lot more with that, because it was all specifically interviews with the model shops, the model makers, the creature makers.
Cool.
Yeah, they bypassed the stars, they bypassed the cinematographers and stuff, and it was strictly that. And so that was I bought all of those magazines.
Cinefix?
Yeah, Cinefix, Cinefex. It's actually still in print. They're still making the book, even though they're now competing with the internet. But it's considered a trade magazine. It comes out quarterly. It's like 1/4 inch to 3/8 of an inch thick, and it's like half size. It's this weird, like half tall magazine. But it's a wealth of information and behind the scenes photos, especially for the older productions that happened before the internet.
You know, I believe I remember. I think I know what you're talking about, because I mean, I'm a youngster, a young whippersnapper, but I do remember the days when Barnes and Noble and the other bookstore places, Borders existed. Right. I don't know if they do anymore. Maybe
Barnes and Noble still does, and Barnes and Noble carries Cinefix. So,
okay. Okay.
Yeah, you're good.
Forgive my ignorance there. I just knew they were vanishing around here in my era, but it's nice to know that they're still around, because I do believe, and this is so cool, I think I did pick up a Cinefix, and I remember it was one when the new remake of the Godzilla movie with Matthew Broderick.
Oh, yeah, okay.
You know, that Godzilla movie came out.
Right.
I believe there was a Cinefix, because I would used to hang out in these Barnes & Nobles and Borders, and I would sit specifically in the magazine section. Well, I would also sit in the section where they had the magic books, but I like the magazine and tech section.
Yep.
And I believe it was Cinefix. And that's all it was. You open it up, and it's like, here's what the rubber mask looked like before it was painted. Here's them applying it over the main cast's face.
Exactly. Here's the model set with the regular house lights on, so you can see how the set was, how the models were put together.
Yes.
That particular remake of Godzilla was before the super prevalence of CG. I mean, it was still happening, but the model of New York City were physical models. So I remember reading about that they rented and bought every scale model building they could get a hold of, because they were trying to do so much of the movie, and they didn't want to have repeated buildings. So like the models from Hudsucker Proxy were in there. Some of the building models from Fifth Element, when they wrapped, they ended up renting to the Godzilla production so they could use them and redress them. Yeah.
So you're saying there's a warehouse, there's a designated warehouse.
Yeah, usually for like a large model set, like they're trying to do a model city of New York.
Got it.
The scale buildings are
Oh, right,
still
right.
huge. They're 20 feet tall, right, or 16 feet tall. A lot of these because there's
Got it.
a limitation on
Oh,
size
thank you.
for like smoke and water and things.
Yeah.
So yeah, these giant models that are still models. Yeah, you got to put them somewhere. But there's a ton of red tape for shooting on location, which they do as well. Having to coordinate off some well-known intersections.
That's what I was.
That's
what I was
yeah,
mixing that
totally.
up with. I was like,
Yeah,
what was wrong with? I had a mental.
right.
Yeah.
No, you got it. Ghostbusters in the front of the hotel. The I can't remember the name of the hotel in the movie, but it's
Okay.
right off Central Park, I think. Not that I've been there. I've been to New York once or
Roosevelt?
twice, but maybe it's the one from Ghostbusters, right?
Okay.
When everything starts going crazy just before they actually start going up the hotel to deal with Gozer, you see them drive up in the street and they've got police barriers up and there's a crowd there and the Ecto-1 pulls in. Well, all that's in New York. So they did the red tape to get the permissions to do it. And then Gozer does its thing and the ground shakes and you have pieces of pavement come up and this mechanical onset effect of the ground cracking open and pipes spewing out fluids and stuff. All that's done on the Hollywood lot because they have control of it there. And so they just have enough of a facade of where they're at to sell that this is still the same place.
Got it. And between cutting in and out, they can cut to the on-location shot and then cut back to
a set.
Yeah, a very specific angle on the set so it doesn't reveal too much, but just like you're on top of that street that's cracking open just for that split second, and then they can cut back to the other. Real.
Right.
Yeah.
And then the Ghostbusters go in the building so you never reveal that you didn't hurt the New York street. Yeah.
Correct. And then you have a whole separate video called movie bloopers, like in I believe there was a Brad Pitt Hercules movie or something, and
Troy or whatever.
Troy, and you could see a 747 flying.
Right. right.
Those kind of things that you want to avoid.
The 60s where you really can't fix anything and you're doing, I think it's Spartacus and with Kurt Russell, right? No, Kirk Douglas. And so many of the extras had wristwatch suntans, right? They get all the armor off, they take their watches off to be in period.
That's
but
funny.
Then they've got a wristwatch suntan, yeah.
Like back in the day when we had sundial wristwatches.
That's right.
Like that. Yeah, that's a whole separate project. Wow. Okay, cool. Well, this man, dude, Odin, you have the most amazing stories. I didn't expect anything less from the fan favorite. I forgot how I introed you in the beginning. I'll have to go back, and it was a mouthful. The fan favorite father of floor mat fabrication. Boom, got it again.
Something like that. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
That's your new tagline.
Awesome.
Where can, like I said, my listeners and viewers may not have any idea who you are, and I want them to know. Where can the listeners and viewers find out more about Odin and what he makes?
Well, I hide behind the username Odin Makes. And that's a joke because Odin Makes is what I use on YouTube.
Right.
Odin Makes is my Instagram handle. I've got an Odin Makes Facebook profile.
Right there. You'll see the link
right there. I've got a user group within Facebook called Odin's Makers. On Reddit, you can find our Odin Makes. I have a Patreon. That's patreon.com/Odin Makes that gets my members into an exclusive Discord, which is like a gaming chat channel that. That's private, and so I actually interact with them all the time on the private Discord. All the Patreon members.
I had no idea.
Yeah. So Odin Makes takes you kind of everywhere, and right now OdinMakes.com references the YouTube channel, but we're in process of putting together a website. So pretty soon, OdinMakes.com is another place to go that'll have all sorts of stuff.
Everything consolidated in one place.
That's right.
No need for a link tree for you, right?
Nope, not really, no.
Link.tree, whatever, yeah, no.
Absolutely, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Odin's getting it together. He's going to bring the best of all these worlds, these tech worlds together. Discord, actually, guys, I'll just chime in and say, I love Discord. I personally am not a gamer per se, but Discord is extremely useful for people interested in very specific things. Oftentimes, Discord will have a special community designated towards whatever that thing is, especially it's really big in the makerspace community. And I've found, for instance, like 3D printer tech support, you go to their main website, you try to send them an email. Yes, you will get a response, but it'll probably be in like a week or more, depending on how many emails they have. Go on Discord. Usually those people, those guys and gals, are very active, and it's almost feels like a live chat because people are on there all the time and they want to help each other. I've gotten so much out of Discord. It saved me hours and hours and hours of just twiddling my thumbs waiting for an answer, really. So check out his Discord. Check out Odin Makes on social, and all these links will be in the show description and on the podcast, and I dropped a few links below as you were mentioning them. So
awesome, thank you.
Yeah, man. This show here is all about inspiring interviews with the movers, the shakers, the visionaries, and the makers. And you,
great.
Odin, my friend, happen to fall into that category. And,
awesome, thank you.
I am honored. I really was literally thinking about this interview ever since you said yes. It's been the substance of my dreams at night.
Wow.
Overjoyed to bring in, you have what, a casual 500,000 subs right now?
Yeah, I got a casual half. Yeah, I just broke 560. Yeah.
No big deal.
No big deal.
But see, he's cool enough. He's nice enough to jump on my thing here and share his knowledge and passion with you guys. So I want to thank you, Odin, for taking the time out of your day for dropping by to my show. And guys, you've been watching another episode of Making Magic, and we'll see you on the next one.
Can you believe this Sean guy? I mean, how unprofessional is this? I need to take a bathroom break in the middle of a show? I mean, seriously? No. It's, oh, you watching?
No, that was... I wanted to get that. Man. That's perfect B-roll.
I'm recording on my end too, so you got it.
Okay.